Welcome back, it's Lincoln. So upon request, I'm going to share a few of the meals that I eat daily. Now, I'm not a nutritional expert, meaning I have no certifications within nutrition. But over the years, I've read a few books, I've experimented with a few diets on myself. So what I'm going to share is my personal experiences and what has led me to eat what I eat today. So first, the Superfood Smoothie. Now, I read a book on superfoods a few years back, and I really wanted to incorporate into my diet. So I first started incorporating superfoods, the goji berries, the cacao nibs, and the hemp seeds into my Greek yogurt bowl. Now, I'm someone who is big on texture, and the goji berries are just a little too chewy. Wasn't necessarily my favorite. So for some reason, I just completely stopped with the superfoods. So it wasn't until a couple years ago, I had a client approach me with an eating disorder and saying that their hormones and digestive system was completely out of whack. So this sparked me to go back into that superfood research, and this is where I created the Superfood Smoothie. And the Superfood Smoothie has been a staple in my diet ever since. And I will say for this client, within 3 to 6 months, I don't remember the exact time frame, they lost 30 pounds and their digestive system and hormones regulated for the most part. And now this wasn't just a superfood smoothie, this was also eating the other meals that I eat on a daily basis, which actually increased their daily calorie count. So they lost 30 pounds by increasing the amount of food they ate. So what goes into the smoothie? I always start with spinach first. I have my order and how I do things. Everything has its way. So, handful of spinach. Now I go with some blueberries, some strawberries. Next, 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds, 2 tablespoons of cacao nibs, coconut water. I utilize coconut water instead of milk. I know people have also used orange juice, you could do that, just for the extra hydration benefits that you get. It's a good source of electrolytes. Put some protein, and then 2 tablespoons of oats. And there you have it. One beautiful superfood smoothie. First calories of the day. It's delicious. So this next meal has had multiple variations. It started as a veggie scramble. So peppers, onions, I had spinach or kale in there, veggie sausage, I'd throw eggs or possibly tofu, and then maybe even a vegan or vegetarian cheese on top. So this was a time when I was eating more of a pescatarian diet. So pescatarian is basically vegetarian plus fish. So I would still eat dairy and eggs. And then I would basically just remove all meats aside from fish. Now, this diet I actually enjoyed and it worked relatively well for me, but what I found is that my body responds really well to red meat. So long term, I didn't necessarily see pescatarian as an ideal for me in the long term. So currently, how I make this is more of a steak or chicken and egg scramble. So for a good period of time, I was actually just eating ground bison. And then I was reading the book Breath, actually, and it said that part of the reason why we do not breathe well is because we eat so many soft foods and that we are not forced to chew as much or as vigorously as we were in the past. So because of that, I have added more of a tougher cut of beef, so I'll do beef cubes, or I'll even do boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Then I'll also add in eggs to this as well. And what I want to add is normally I'll also have a green pepper, but I ran out, so that was poor planning on my part. But when eating, you want to eat colorful. So I read a book about how foods are actually connected to our chakras. So I like throughout my day to be eating red, yellow. I have blueberries. I'll throw spinach in there. I like to have green peppers as well. A variety of colors, because colors in foods are what are called phytochemicals. And phytochemicals, each color produces a different type of nutrient within the color. So eating various colors gives our body the most amount of nutrients. So, peppers, onions, chicken. I even make rice with this. I'll also add some mushrooms into the mix occasionally. Regular mushrooms. I like other mushrooms as well, but those I do not eat on a daily basis. I'm now going to introduce you to probably my favorite meal, the Greek yogurt bowl. Now, when I first started eating Greek yogurt, it was back in my bodybuilding days. And back then, I was tracking all my calories, I was weighing all my food, and I was counting every gram of protein, every gram of carb, and every gram of fat. So, would have I included all of this into that Greek yogurt bowl? No, I was actually eating those small Chobani cups with the fruit in it. When I first started bodybuilding, I followed Lane Norton's principles, basically his guide, how to take yourself through your own bodybuilding show. And that was kind of that foundation that I ran with through the rest of my bodybuilding career. During my time bodybuilding, I did play around with various types of diets. So I did the carb cycle. So the carb cycle is where your protein stays constant every single day. But then some days are actually a little higher calories and the carbs are higher. So my carbs might have been in the 300 grams, but my fat would have been really low. And then there'd be a low carb day where the calories were lower, the carbs were significantly lower, maybe in like the 75 grams, and then the fat would be relatively higher. I utilized the carb cycle actually for probably the majority of my time bodybuilding. Now at the peak of my bodybuilding, I went through this phase where I tried to eat as little fat as possible while still within the structure of the carb cycle. There was one day where I believe I ate 7 grams of fat total. And this was still eating 300 grams of protein and 300 to 400 grams of carbs. I was having my chicken boiled to remove every bit of fat possible. Now, if you don't quite understand how little of an amount 7 grams of fat is, I encourage you download MyFitnessPal. That's the app that I utilized for years. And try to go through a day with just eating 7 grams of fat. Actually, try to go through one meal. So I was in this like obsessed state. But it was during this time where I was eating everything low fat, no fat, rice, sweet potatoes. Like I said, I was boiling my chicken. I was not eating beef. I was not eating really any type of fish unless it was a white fish. I was eating lots of broccoli, asparagus. I'd throw some Brussels sprouts in there, here and there. But at the end of my day, I would finish every single night. I'd do like 50 push-ups, and then I'd eat 2 cups of the Greek yogurt with the fruit in it. Now, my Greek yogurt bowl has obviously changed a little bit. So, what I do, I'll put probably 1.5 cups to 2 cups of Greek yogurt, protein powder again. Greek yogurt is kind of sour for those of you who have tried it plain. The good part about that is you can utilize it as a sour cream substitute. I would put Greek yogurt on my scrambles, and then I'd put some barbecue sauce on top, and it really would taste like nachos in a sense when I was utilizing the bison. And I'd also throw rice cakes in there for a little extra crunch, because like I said, I'm big on the texture. So I mix this in, and then I'll add some blueberries. Sometimes I'll add strawberries as well. And for the Superfood Smoothie, I was using blueberries and strawberries for that. I sometimes will use pineapple or mango. I like to mix it up. Again, get different colors in there. Then I put in the granola. I like bursts of flavor. I want as many flavors in my mouth as possible. That's why, if you've noticed, all of my dishes, it's like a conglomerate. I combine all foods into one bowl, which really probably goes back to my military days. The food was not necessarily the greatest on the ship. sometimes would be out to sea for long periods of time and they would start to run low. So they would just give us whatever was left. And what I do, I just mix all my food into I'd mix it all into one pile. I'd put on some ketchup, some mayonnaise, maybe some mustard, and just eat this whole mesh of really just terrible food, but you had to make it as good as possible. But I love combining foods. Now, I'll also sometimes throw in some Oreos or some other cookies. Sometimes I'll heat up chocolate chip cookies, add a little heat difference, a little coolness with the warm chocolate chip cookie. So this obviously, if you are going through a weight loss journey, you might not want to add the Oreos. And then I'll put some honey on top. Honey and bee products are considered a superfood as well. I forgot to add into the Superfood Smoothie. I've also just started incorporating bee pollen in there as well. So, as you can see, delicious Greek yogurt bowl. Again, I eat this at the end of the day. It is sort of my treat, my ice cream that finishes the day. So, my favorite meal. Now, that is it for the meals, but I do want to discuss a couple other diets that I have tried over the years. The main one being intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting was one of my favorite diets and something that I'm actually probably going to go back to soon. So when I first started intermittent fasting, I was doing a 16-hour fast, 8 p.m. to noon, with a 8-hour eating window. So I'd eat from noon to 8 p.m. This diet was extremely effective for me, and it kept me relatively lean just at all times. So lean that I was actually able to jump into my final bodybuilding competition and only do a 4-week prep. And a 4-week prep, for those of you who know bodybuilding, is relatively short. So a few of the benefits of intermittent fasting is that after an extended period of fasting, your insulin resistance decreases. And insulin is one of the key factors in weight gain. Dr. Jason Fung goes into way more detail about that in his book, The Obesity Code. But a few other things, intermittent fasting will raise your natural HGH levels after an extended period of time. It will also put you into a state of ketosis, meaning that you are burning fat for energy. Now, for those of you who have tried or heard of the ketogenic diet, that is the purpose. That is where they remove most of your carb source, so you're not burning energy from glucose. So you're eating in a ketogenic diet, it's about 60 to 65% fat intake, 30% protein, and then you're in the 5 to 10% carbs. And those carbs are just coming from vegetables and then other really fat sources. So something like an avocado also has carbs in it, but you eat the avocado for the healthy fat and you get the side product of the carbs. So I actually tried the ketogenic ones for like a 2-week period. Now I did this during my bodybuilding days, and this is when I was basically just addicted to carbs. I was going through these up and down cycles of overindulging, starving myself, and I loved carbs. So I tried ketogenic for about 2 weeks, didn't work for me. And there may be a time where I try the ketogenic diet, but it is very restricting and I'm not in that point in life to where I want to give it a go. But back to fasting. So for those of you who might believe that fasting will eat away at muscle mass. Now let's go back to like the hunter-gatherer days. You got to think people were going for sometimes 2, 3, maybe 4 days without food. So for our ability to survive and then thrive, it'd be very counterproductive if immediately once we went into a mode of, let's say, starvation, we started eating muscle tissue. So our body will automatically start eating at the fat cells and utilizing those for energy, which is why we store fat in the first place. So when we go into those periods of time without food, we have an energy source to burn to keep us alive and functioning well. Physically, cognitively, just keep us in a good state to continue about our lives and really find food so we can continue to survive. But overall, fasting has been one of my favorite diets. I actually went through like a 3-month period of time to where I fasted for 23 hours a day and then I'd eat in a 1-hour window. Now, while I did find my energy levels for my workouts were a little lower. I'd work out about 6 a.m. and then I would eat in the 10 to 11 a.m. range. So I'd been on a long fast by the time I hit my workouts, but I had so much time to just be productive because after I ate and I did my cleanup, I didn't have to eat for another 24-hour or 23-hour window. My buddy Ryan, he actually did a 30-day fast, which is crazy and insane. But one of the things he took away, he was like, I had so much free time. He's like, when you don't have to worry about eating and then cooking and cleaning, he's like, it's incredible the amount of time that it frees up. So not necessarily saying I'm recommending fast for 30 days or even doing the 23-hour fast, but fasting is one of those diets that has a lot of health benefits and it's great for fat loss as well. So if you are in the process of looking for a potential diet, I would do a little more research into that. Now, the final thing I want to touch on is intuitive eating. I would consider that at this point in my life, I'm an intuitive eater. And I hear a lot of people saying that that's the way to eat and that counting macros and counting calories is mentally unhealthy, which can, yes, be true because you can become obsessed about it. But I would say if I had not spent years counting macros, counting calories, because I would read every label, I understood what I was putting into my body. And had I not gone through that process, I don't know if I could successfully intuitively eat at this point. Because I can basically look at a plate of food and I can guesstimate how many calories is in there, how much protein, carbs, and fat are on that one plate of food. Now also, although I am currently intuitively eating, I would say every like 6 months or so, I still plug in what I eat on average into MyFitnessPal just to check and see if I'm kind of in the range where I want to be. So for those of you who maybe have no idea where to begin, I would first recommend download MyFitnessPal and just for a couple weeks, track what you're eating, track everything. The good part is you can basically scan in most of your foods and you don't necessarily have to weigh out all your food, just kind of take an estimate. If you're using a 1 pound pack of beef or something and you eat a quarter of it, you know that's going to be 4 ounces. So just make some kind of like smart estimates there, but really get an idea for what you're putting in your body daily. And for those of you who still want some extra guidelines or maybe some recipe ideas, I'm going to attach a link to a PDF of a whole bunch of meal creations below. So I hope this video gave you a little insight into maybe the way that you can progress in your own dieting. Obviously, I gave you some of my own meals. If you have any thoughts, comment those below. Definitely click on that link and download the PDF. And if you feel like this video would serve someone well, please share. Thank you and have a blessed week.